Today, we're looking at a parable in Luke 16 that, at first glance, raises a difficult and uncomfortable question. Why does Jesus command a man who is explicitly described as unrighteous? Our primary text is Luke 16, 1 through 13. The parable begins with a manager who is accused of wasting his master's possessions. He is called to give an account, and it is clear that his position is about to end. As he considers his situation, he realizes that he has no stable future. He is not able to do manual labor, and he is unwilling to beg. Instead, he devises a plan. He calls in his master's debtors and reduces what they owe, securing their favor, so that, when he is removed, they will receive him into their homes. Then we are told the master praised the unrighteous manager because he had acted shrewdly. That statement should not be rushed past. The man is called unrighteous, and yet he is praised. Jesus deliberately chooses a morally compromised figure to make his point. The discomfort is part of the teaching. If we resolve it too quickly, we risk missing what he is doing. So what exactly is being commended? Well, it's certainly not his dishonesty. The text is explicit about that. What is commended is his shrewdness, his ability to recognize that his present situation is temporary and to act decisively in light of what is coming. Jesus then draws out this observation. For the children of this age are more shrewd than the children of light in dealing with their own people. In other words, those who are oriented toward this world often demonstrate a level of intentionality that is lacking among those who belong to God. They think ahead. They act with urgency. They use what they have to secure what they believe their future will be. At this point, however, Jesus does not simply say, "Be like this man." Instead, he redirects the principle in a way that requires careful attention. In verse 9, he says, "And I tell you, make friends for yourselves by means of worldly wealth, so that when it fails, they may welcome you into eternal dwellings." This statement is easily misunderstood, so it's worth slowing down here at verse 9. Worldly wealth refers to material resources, things that belong to this present age and do not endure. They are temporary by nature. Jesus underscores this by saying, when it fails, not if. The assumption is that it will not last. To make friends by means of this wealth is not a call to manipulate relationships, but to use what we have in ways that genuinely benefit others, ways that align with God's purposes. It is a call to relational and kingdom-oriented stewardship. And the result is stated in terms of eternal dwellings. That is, the outcome extends beyond this life. The use of temporary resources is connected, in some real sense, to eternal realities. The point then is not that money secures eternity, but that it reveals how we are oriented toward it. The manager used wealth to secure a temporary future. Jesus teaches that disciples are to use wealth in light of an eternal one. This leads directly into the next section, where the focus sharpens. Whoever is faithful in very little is also faithful in much, and whoever is unrighteous in very little is also unrighteous in much. Here, the emphasis moves from shrewdness to faithfulness, but it does not abandon the earlier point. Instead, it completes it. The manager was shrewd, but he was not faithful. Jesus is not calling his disciples to choose between those qualities, but to bring them together. Shrewdness without faithfulness results in unrighteousness, and faithfulness without intentionality results in passivity. The Christian is called to something fuller, to be both faithful and purposeful in the use of what God has entrusted to them. Jesus then presses the issue further. So if you have not been faithful with worldly wealth, who will trust you with what is genuine? And if you have not been faithful with what belongs to someone else, who will give you what is your own? Here, worldly wealth is reframed as a test. It is very little in comparison to what is true and lasting. Yet, how it is handled reveals whether a person can be trusted with greater responsibility. This leads to the conclusion of Jesus' teaching. No servant can serve two masters, since either he will hate one and love the other, or he will be devoted to one and despise the other. You cannot serve both God and money. This is where all the threads come together. The issue is not merely how wealth is used, but what it represents in the life of the individual. It is not neutral. It functions as a rival master. The dishonest manager recognized that his situation was changing, and he acted accordingly. Jesus uses that example to expose a hard question which we all must confront. How do we respond to the reality that this present world is temporary? Do we act with clarity and intention? Do we treat what we have as something to be stewarded? Or do we live passively, as though these things are permanent? The passage then confronts us not only with a call to faithfulness, but with a challenge to our level of intentionality. It raises the possibility that those outside the kingdom may, at times, show greater urgency about temporary matters than believers show about eternal ones. That is not presented as an ideal, but as a contrast meant to provoke reflection. So why is the dishonest manager praised? He is praised because he recognized that his situation was temporary and acted decisively in light of what was coming. Jesus takes that observation and redirects it toward a deeper truth. What we do with what we have reveals both our faithfulness and our allegiance. Are we serving God with what we have, or are we serving something else? The weight of that question is what Jesus wants us to feel today, and only you can answer that question honestly. Thanks for listening, my friends. I hope this has been helpful for your Bible study. Grace and peace to you as you continue your walk with God.